one of the ways white supremacy was propagated back in those days was by appealing to white male insecurity, right? But that insecurity is a product of social pressures that we can kind of like intercept, right? Like, think about the modern day today. A ton of people who are driven to incel ideology do so because they get kind of like blackpilled by this hypergamy myth. This idea that like, well, nobody's really
Hmm.
having sex anymore because all the women are having sex with all the high value men or whatever, which is meant to like make them feel despair because they can't compete or keep up or whatever, stuff like that. And it's like the black pill, like, oh, if you don't look like 6'5" with a 10-inch penis, then you're like that kind of stuff. Those systems of insecurity move people over to incel ideology and thus fascism. But like,
Yeah, and that insecurity, not only is that not addressed by the left, it's like laughed at by the left. It's like, oh, if you're insecure about like not getting laid, then that's like your then that's like a moral or personal failing on your part. And it sort of is, but it's like it's a problem that like a lot of guys go through, and it doesn't mean that they're incels, right? I I see that like there's a difference between it being an incel than being involuntarily celibate, right? A lot of people can be incels for all sorts of reasons, or I mean involuntarily celibate for all sorts of reasons without being an incel, because incels like their ideology is based around like this hatred of woman, like saying that it's woman's fault that like they're not getting laid. Where it's like I think a lot of guys can accept like the fact that like it's so at least like a little bit on themselves that like they are unable to find sexual partners, right? But like it's just really like weird and off-putting when feminists will like say like, oh, you can't get laid, well that's because you're a misogynistic bigot who doesn't treat women right. And it's like, you don't know that, you don't know anything about about the guy that you're attacking. Like a guy can be lonely for all sorts of reasons. Like of course I am not misogynistic at all. I am the least misogynistic person you've ever seen, okay? And I mean I have struggled with like dating, as like most guys do in this modern age, even before COVID, right? And it had nothing to do with me like not respecting women or treating them like people or whatever. It's just like it's difficult to talk to people, especially people of the opposite sex, because there's like so many things that are not in common. It's hard to relate to them. And well, yeah, it is a challenge to learn how to like relate to women and like talk to them. And same thing can be said for women. Like clearly these unironic misandrists who who just like shit on men all the time on Twitter or whatever, and call that like activism somehow. Um, clearly they are not very tolerant of the opposite sex, right? So this is not a male issue, it's just a human issue. I've thought about this a lot, and it's like whether we're male or female, we're all human beings, right? And we like want the same things mostly. Of course, males and females, yeah, we're different, but like as human beings, we face like similar problems, and we react to those problems in different ways. We react to them in more masculine or feminine ways, right? Where was I going?